What up, though? I am back. I am back. I am back with another video, with another reaction video, with another 10 mention video. That's right. So, keep on with this month of mention. I'm giving you Tony the pitch. We hopping right into it. Boom. Y'all already know. Do the like stuff. I'll do it after this. Here we go.
Religious friend I go head to head with and get very boring at dinner parties with on these sort of big questions. And he always...
Hold on, this sounded a little off. I'm going to start that again.
I have a particular religious friend I go head to head with and get very boring at dinner parties with on these sort of big questions. And he always sort of seems to think that to be sceptical is to be cynical, and that my view of the world sees no beauty, which I always argue is not the case. I mean, I find the world a really exciting place. There are ideas that are a bit more sciencey, that are just as exciting as the kind of magic-y ones, you know, like the one of the greatest ideas of all time, evolution.
Magic-y ones. That is hilarious. I love that. We gonna continue, but I do. Yeah, let's go.
The theory of natural selection, you know, not only is it, how would you say, right. I'm just practicing my timing for my American tour. Pause, right, and duck. Duck. I mean, not only is it good science, but it's also really thrilling, don't you think, this idea that an individual of a species can be born sort of mutated in a good way. And in the moment of that individual's birth, it holds within its genetic code the potential for its entire species to take a huge evolutionary leap forward. It's amazing. And I always think, what would life have been like being one of those individual mutant freaks? You know, what did the other kids think? Imagine being the first dude ever to have feet. I reckon that would be really tough. And also, what I wonder is, how did these individuals with their new bits, like, how did they figure out how to use them? Did they just stumble upon their potential purpose one day, just accidentally, you know? Imagine you're a fish, and you're just swimming in the ocean.
I'm sorry, you see me get a little deeper into it, because honestly, that first little half sounded like he was rapping, well, rhyming. It sounded like it was the cadence. I guess when you're a musician, that tends to happen a lot, especially when you're in performance mode. Say things, and like you said, he was doing the timing, but it was like everything was sounding similar to me. I guess the way that he put it was just, you know, it was perfect.
With your school, and you're all just hanging out, swimming, same as always, because you're fish. And suddenly, out of nowhere, Tony, fucking Tony, Tony just goes, I'm getting out. Yeah, I'm freezing. You're a fish, Tony. Yeah, well, I'm a cold fish. I just want to pop out for a bit, you know, maybe lie in my towel. I'll bring you an ice cream. Yeah, don't bother, Tony. You're a freak. Come on, school, let's go. Let's ostracize him for being different. Yeah, let's ostracize him. Tony's a freak. Let's ostracize him for being different. No, don't ostracize me. I'm just a little bit different. Oh, bugger you then. I'll show you guys. Fuck me. Those are gonna come in handy. And imagine what Tony would think, standing there on his brand new feet, on the brink of the beginnings of mankind as we know it. If he could look forward just a few short hundreds of millions of years to see one of his descendants, an Israeli Jew by the name of Jesus, having a nail hammered through his feet. The very feet that Tony provided him with as a punishment for having a sort of schizophrenic discourse with a god who was created by man to explain the existence of feet in the absence of the knowledge of the existence of Tony.
Okay, so part of this does rhyme. I just want to get it. I'm like, okay, I hear the rhythm, I hear the cadence, I even hear the words rhyming, but it's so nonchalant and it comes off as matter of factly because he's telling this story that you miss it. But the beautiful part about that is that even when you miss it, it sounds cohesive. Like it helps with the pace. So I'm just really enjoying this, and yeah, I'm really enjoying
I think that would blow his little fishy mind.
it.
This religious friend of mine, arguments often end with him telling me that I'm not very open-minded. And because he's my friend and I respect him, I've written him a song. It's called If You Open Your Mind Too Much, Your Brain Will Fall Out. Which I think is brilliant. It's so clever. Unfortunately, I didn't come up with it myself. I read that in a book. So to avoid copyright issues, I've given it a subtitle, which is Take My Wife!
Take my wife. Please take her.
Anyone can show me one example in the history of the world of a single psychic who's been able to prove under reasonable experimental conditions that they are able to read minds. And if anyone can show me one example in the history of the world of a single astrologer who's been able to prove under reasonable experimental conditions that they can predict future human events by interpreting celestial signs. And if anyone can show me one example in the history of the world of a single homeopathic practitioner who's been able to prove under reasonable experimental conditions that solutions made up of infinitely tiny particles of good stuff dissolved repeatedly into relatively huge quantities of water have a consistently higher medicinal value than a similarly administered placebo.
I gotta hear that again.
And if human events by interpreting celestial signs. And if anyone can show me one example in the history of the world of a single homeopathic practitioner who's been able to prove under reasonable experimental conditions that solutions made up of infinitely tiny particles of good stuff dissolved repeatedly into relatively huge quantities of water have a consistently higher medicinal value than a similarly administered placebo. And if anyone can show me one example in the history of the world of a single spiritual person who's been able to show either empirically or logically the existence of a higher power with any consciousness or interest in the human race, or ability to punish or reward humans for their moral choices, or that there is any reason other than fear to believe in any version of an afterlife, I will give you my piano, one of my legs, and my wife.
Wow, that was amazing. All right. Now, I'm glad that we went on this Tim Minchin journey because one of the things that I want to say is like, my, and I do it like this. My view or perspective of Christianity is that my view of version of Christianity is that it all goes down to energy, science, and everything. Like to say that there's not a higher power. I I have no facts of that, right? I have beliefs of that. Um my belief is also that one day science can prove what God is. And yeah, it may turn out to be, oh, this is one magnificent source energy. Um, it's this one thing that connects everybody all together, and it's gives the idea of something connecting and not connect. Sorry, my dog was barking, but yeah, um, it is the God is the conjoining consciousness that ties all of us together, all of the carbon atoms that uh, is simultaneously a part of us and not a part of us, meaning that that carbon stardust that we are from, there's a source that's there, and that source just you know goes. It could be, I know the source goes just didn't really make sense, but it could also be the fact that God is the earth. God is this living creation that heals, destroys, just like us. We see land mass come and go. It is just the representation of us. God is earth, and earth creates. It imitates us as being, well, we imitate it as being um water, mass, and air, or minerals, chemicals, just like earth is. It could be any of those things, right? Yeah, it could be that. Or God could be this omnipotent being that breaks down into the atoms. I don't know. It can be something, but I know that the proof of it being the fact that God don't exist, just it doesn't connects with me. It don't. And I can say so many different reasons on why it don't. Uh and I am going to start asking questions on my Patreon. Uh because one of the things that I said was entropy prevents, entropy says that something that is left to its own thing just grows into something that is unsustainable, like the grass. And if you don't touch it, if you don't, just grows into this wildlife, right? People said, hey, the sun and the energy of the earth rotating takes away that entropy, because there's always energy coming and going. My question would be, and I'm going to ask this question and y'all can answer it, is if that is the case, then how is entropy in of itself possible on earth if everything else is being governed by that same energy that prevents entropy, that allows evolution? Because honestly, we are all governed by that same energy, that same sun, that same planetary alignment, that rotation, all of that. The planet, the Earth, I mean, this universe expanding and everything, right? All of that is up under the same law of, I mean, Earth is up under all of that. So if it was left untouched and somehow we got evolution from it, wouldn't that say the exact same thing about grass? Wouldn't that say it's the exact same thing about, like, that just didn't make sense to me. And I would love somebody to better explain that. So I mean, that's what I would like somebody to explain. But yeah, and there's another thing about what he said in that is that the astrological stars and stuff. Um you said prove it to you. Um w- can we agree that astrology came before astronomy? Astrology was the mystification of things that goes on in astronomy. And that might not make sense to you, but understand that this is before we had science. We had all of this supernatural stuff, right? Um, Routes, uh, the lack of understanding of agriculture and stuff like this, to the point that it was given to the guys, and you do this on this day, you do this on this day, you do this at this time, you do this at this time, which is how we got Yule, which is how we got Easter, which is how we got Halloween, which is how we get the summer solstice and stuff. All of those things that actually governs agriculture, that scientifically has been proven as agriculture, back in the day it was magic. Back in the day, it was okay, the gods allow us to do this at this time. And back in this day, it was following the stars, it was following the sun, it was follow we all actually those are pagan holidays based off agriculture. So to say that, hey, it hasn't been proven, it has. But what happens is that when it becomes proven, it becomes science. So, for him to say that is kind of like a misnomer, because when it becomes proven, it's become science. Before there were pills, there were these homeo doctors that use herbs and all of these potions to actually heal. So all of that is like, it becomes hand in hand until it's demystified. It's magic. When it becomes demystified, it's science. You know, Now, personal perspectives of what Christianity is about, fear and all of that, like even some of my beliefs is based off the understanding that we're taking it, the Bible is coming from people that didn't have the understanding of the way that the world worked, the way that it worked, the way that it works. They didn't know about tsunamis. They didn't know about monsoon season. They said, hey, this may have happened once before, and Noah's family was around to witness it, and so they said, hey, it can happen again. And Noah started building an ark, and yeah, it's supposed to be these measurements, but let's honestly understand that those measurements were given by Moses hundreds of years after that, right? Could have been about the size of a yacht or whatever. Let's say, and all of the animals in the world to them was 15-20 miles radius. Think about the animals that you can see in a 15-20 mile radius. In the jungle, you probably got hippos who can hang around in the water. You probably got birds. You got lions, tigers, cheetahs, antelopes, and then people like, oh yeah, uh, You know, predators would definitely eat all the animals. Yeah, that can happen if one if the predators outweigh the prey as far as heavily, because predators are these animals, these animals, these animals. Prey is a wide array of things, everything from antelope to aardvarks, elks, and all of that, right? And then the digestive system of, it takes them 3 days, it takes certain animals 3 days to digest food. Snakes, it takes about a week to decompress, like all of that, right? And they're only there for 40 days. So it's less than a month. Animals, predators don't eat like the way that we eat and have to eat every day. Lions, they'll take food and it can last them 3 days, and plus it's another 4 days for their digestive system to work. So 40 days, you know, I mean, it all depends on how it goes. And so, operating on that understanding, and what was 40 days to them? Because honestly, if we go by, Julian, I think it's the Julian calendar, we're like for the Gregorian calendar, we were 40 years behind. So days was a construct that wasn't the same as what we know today. So it could have literally been a 3-day event of monsoon and then another 2 days of, but they said that it's 40 days because of, you know, stories. So when people start taking things literally in the Bible, it's like how how can a person make sense if you are literally taking a time that didn't have quality understanding of days, that don't have quality understanding of geography, that don't have understanding of the possibilities that there are people out in the world that just has no connection towards them. Like to take all of that from one person who wasn't around for hundreds of years before that. And then I'm just talking about Genesis through Deuteronomy, Moses. He took all that and he created stories to give a group of people that technically had no past understanding of who they were. And he was given the understanding based off being a kid, being in Egypt, growing up under Egyptian knowledge, and he grabbed a whole bunch of different information with different biases, which is why you can look at some of the Hebrew stuff and see the correlation to ancient Kemet. I'm not saying that ancient Kemet is right or wrong, or you know, saying that those are stories to give the people that had no past the past because they didn't write anything down. So to have that and to say, oh, we're going to be bound by this was because it's the work of God. Yes, it is the work of God. But even in the story of Moses, the work of God was for them to actually be in the desert for a few days, and he went on his own understanding and not God's understanding, and he put him in the desert for 40 years, right? Well, that is another story to say that human is as human does. This work was to create for a particular race that didn't have a history. Then that's my understanding of it. So all of that and all of, I mean, All of that states that there needs to be a little bit more of a humanistic understanding of words that have been around for over 2,000 years that still hold some regards of commonality. And yeah, a lot of the times is, oh, these things are common sense. Yes, back then these weren't common. So I mean, but to state to hold the Bible to the fire based off of how other people interpret it is it's funny because yeah, if you look at the Bible, it is raising you to be a monolith. Oh, you gotta have these ideas, but we got a whole bunch of different ideas from a different people. So that in of itself is not supposed to. It can't be a monolith. So to for humans to have take all of these words to have the completely different understandings, I am to believe that I gotta figure out what it is for me. Mine's is that God is going to be found out by science. Whether it's the earth that is God, and we since we all come from it, and we are 30 to 70% water, and we are the same as land mass and all of that, considering that that's part of it. Yeah, we're made in this image, you know. And God is carbon energy, which honestly, if we all are the same carbon energy and carbon atoms, yeah, evolution would make sense because it's used the exact same energy to create other things. But then that's like, okay, so what is the carbon and what is the intelligence that helped create the evolution? Was it solely off survival? Maybe. Or was there change in energies and frequencies that created ideas to evolve this particular a particular animal? Like those things are questions that I have, like, because it doesn't things that don't make sense to me is the fact that, we all come from the fish. This fish also brought in dinosaurs. This fish that have brought in dinosaurs broke down into different types of animals, such as, well, this amoeba that turned into all of these different things. And then when it breaks down in the extension of dinosaurs being transformed into birds, being evolved into birds, and we're all a part of that. I just want to know, like, where's the connection? Because we've all looked for the missing link from orangutan to humans, but what about from fish tadpoles and up? Because honestly, that's kind of like what we are. Because, and I'm sorry, I'm going long, but this is my question because that's kind of like what we are when we're in the stomach of the woman. I mean, not stomach, but when we're being born, we do have gills. We are webbed in some regards. Some people are more so than others. Like we start off kind of like tadpoles, and we all start off as women. And as far as the understanding that I have, so why can't we find the connection between that and us? Or why haven't we looked for that connection? And if we have, please put in the comments what y'all think. Like tell me so I can have more understanding. But as you can see, I'm thinking that, God is going to be found by science. And when we have an understanding, it's no longer magic or spirituality is science. When we have this thing that was once mystified, we demystify it, it becomes science. So I believe that eventually we'll get there. And it will be this is God, or this is all of the people, this is what you're actually worshiping. It's just nothing but a ball of energy. Matter of fact, you're worshiping the earth. Or matter of fact, there's absolutely no source. So you're worshiping the ether or whatever. Right? Wherever it goes. But that is again my understanding. That is again my belief. I'm always looking to have knowledge, you know. I'm always looking to grow. So if it can, you got information, please let me know. Write in the comments. But keep this month of mention going. You can just hit that next video that's up top, up there. Somewhere. No, down, boom, right there. Hit that video up there. It's gonna be another 10 mention video. All right. Actually, because we're having this conversation, it's going to be thank you, God, because that's what started all of this. So, all the new people that are on my channel that came here for the month of mention video. Oh, all right. But until next time, peace. Love y'all.